This is Marketing Jam, a podcast featuring the brightest minds in Canadian marketing. Here's your host, Darian Kovacs.
Welcome to this week's Marketing Jam. I have a very special guest with us today, Michael Marsland-Root, and he is from Red 5 Design. And I'm really excited to have you here today because I'm actually going to be interviewing you, and then you're going to interview me a little bit. And so together, we're going to deal with a very pressing topic, especially here in Vancouver and in Toronto and all over around the world, is how to the building development sector, also known as project marketing, how do we make sure signage and branding and registrations and marketing to get leads, how do we make those pop? So we're going to be giving 3 tips, Michael around signage and the brand, and myself around registrations. How do we make each of those areas pop for you in the development sector? And of course, a lot of these tips and ideas can apply to any business, whether you are in retail, whether you are launching a new company, whether you're going into a new city and launching your brand or a franchise. All these tips can be applicable. So hopefully you enjoy the show today, and we're excited to welcome Michael here.
Thank you very much.
So Michael.
Excited to be here.
Thank you for coming. So you've been doing this a long time. How long have you been building signs for real estate developers?
Specifically for real estate, about 4 years.
4 years, okay.
Been working on, branding and signage for about 15.
15, okay.
Yeah, so it's the same, issues, whether you're talking real estate industry signage or whether you're talking any kind of branding.
Okay. So you have for us today 3 great ways
Yes.
to make signage pop and to ensure that your signs pop and they're seen and they're heard.
Yes.
Why don't we jump right in? What's the first thing that people need to do for their signage?
Well, if you look at the first graphic up on the screen, you'll see a common problem. There's so much real estate development here in the Lower Mainland, specifically out in the valley, that any given day you go out there. This picture I took not too long ago, actually. Just driving by, any street corner, you can see 4 or 5 different development signs. So you get lost in the crowd, lost in the shuffle. So how do you make your investment dollars pay off for your signage? So that's kind of the first problem that we're trying to solve, because the developers come to me all the time and they say, okay, we want to do, it's called wayfinding signage specifically. Okay. So you're out and about, how do you find your way to the site, right? So the first way to make the sign stand out on a street corner, there's the basic principles of branding and visual communication never change, right? We as human beings, we need to have what's called visual hierarchy to what we're looking at. So whether it's a magazine ad or a billboard or anything, we have a short read time. The information has to be organized really, really super well, and it has to be done in such a way that you're going to convey the most important message in about 2 or 3 seconds read time. Okay. So, looking at our first example here, I just mocked up a sample development. This isn't a real development. This is just a
Park Place from Monopoly, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Great.
So it's just a quick one that I came up with. So here's what all developers kind of want to do. They want to just put everything about the development on the sign. So the first thing we do is
marble countertops.
Yeah, exactly. Everything that makes it special.
Built-in trampoline in the bedroom.
Yeah, for example. Yeah. Right. So the first question that we have to ask them is like, hey, look. You have a lot of other marketing pieces to promote this development. Let's step back just for a quick sec. What is the job of this sign, right? What is it supposed to do? What is it supposed to communicate? Because we as graphic designers, we're unlike artists in a way that our pieces are not just beauty for beauty's sake. It actually has to communicate a message to a target audience and elicit a response. So the first question is, what is our message? What is our target audience? What do we want them to do? So traditionally, the signage is not usually the first time that somebody is seeing information about your development. They've already seen your magazine ad. They've already heard about it from somebody, their realtor or online or social media or that sort of thing. So they're out and about and they're trying to find their way to the site. Or they happen to be driving by, and this is a second or third impression of this development. So they see it as they're waiting in traffic. Oh yeah, I remember seeing that ad, or I remember hearing about that place. So the developer first and foremost has to decide what is it that we want it to do. So here we can see that we've got everything on there. 3 and 4 bedrooms, we got their townhouses, the direction of where it's going, whether it's being sold right now or not. In this case, it's coming soon, so it's not for sale yet. Where the presentation center is, presentation hours, the URL, and the phone number. Okay. So, too much stuff. All of it's about the same weight as far as the text, how heavy the text is. And it's just too full, and as you were sitting in traffic, you'd only be able to just grab one piece. And actually what happens is the more you put on, the less you can actually take away from this. If you had 3 seconds and I asked you quickly, you wouldn't be able to tell me any one piece of information.
No, it's overwhelming.
What's the phone number? What's the URL? You might be able to tell me, okay, it's a right-hand turn.
Yeah, it's all, the big arrow stands out in my mind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what we do is we go back and we redesign this. We say to the developer, please restrain yourself. What is like the top 2 things this sign has to do?
Okay.
Is it a hard place to find? Is the direction really super important?
Yeah.
If it's not, okay, well then the arrow isn't quite as important. Is the website where you're holding all of your marketing information and where your registration is located? So is maybe the URL the most important thing? An interesting fact, actually, we've seen a shift. The phone number used to be the most important thing.
Yeah.
It's not anymore. It's URL. URL is actually more important than phone number.
People don't phone anymore, they just text.
Exactly.
Even my mom texts now.
Your mom texts?
Yeah, she texts me. Yeah. So it's a thing.
There you go. She's on the trend, right?
Yeah.
So the transition in the last couple of years has been, no, the phone number, surprisingly, isn't as important. Let's not use up real estate on the sign for the phone number.
Yeah.
So it still has to be there in some cases. I've seen some that have no phone number. That's just URL.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's mobile, right?
Yeah.
As you know, you're in the car, the passenger's like, oh, great. And they quickly take note of the URL.
Yeah.
And then they check it out as they're driving,
Yeah.
right? So let's take a look at the sign redesigned.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Same branding.
Yep.
Same messaging. Cleaned up.
Way nicer.
Okay, so
memorable.
Exactly. So here we have the identity of the development is
Yep.
the first important thing. The first visual hierarchy element, number 1. What is this? This is Park Place. Okay, I recognize the imagery, I recognize the logo, I've seen that in other marketing materials. I'm interested, I'll keep going. Where is it? It's up ahead to the right. Okay, great, I got that. Now, if they have time to stick around a little longer, we can tell them it's coming soon, it's not for sale just yet. That's also a place on the sign where we have a snipe region. So snipes are when they update the signage throughout the process of the development.
That's smart.
Coming soon, we usually put on already, and below it, it says now selling. So the salesperson can actually just come out in their car one morning and just tear off the pre-installed snipe, right? Which is very economical and very time sensitive. And then in smaller type, we have what the product offering is, 3 and 4 bedroom townhomes, and then we have the phone number and URL. Now, there's a lot of debate as to which of these elements would be most important. In this example, the fictitious developer has told us that product recognition and where it is the most important. If the URL was the most important, then obviously we would rejig this. But here we can see there's a hierarchy, there's a way to enter the sign, there's a way to get out, and you can pick up some key parts. If you're interested, you can go to URL and find out more information. So there you go. So that's the first way to make your sign stand out immediately. Because in a sea of these signs, it's just information.
Yeah, that was a great first photo, a great example.
Yeah, and again, that's like any given Sunday, as they say, right, out in the valley. So the second way to make your sign out, this is not changing, this is not spending any more money, any of these examples, right? This is just playing with the graphics. So usually what we have for these signs is what's called a 4x8. So sheets of plywood are usually sold in 4 foot by 8 foot. That's a standard size. So that's where these signs started off, being 4x8s. Because it only costs you 1 sheet of plywood. They're very economical. They've got a small footprint and they stand up high so you can see them. So that's why that has become kind of the industry standard right now.
And do they typically know where the signs are going to go before they put them up?
Yeah, so what happens is the whoever's in charge of it, sometimes it's the developer, sometimes it's the marketing firm, will decide this is a good corner and that's a good, they'll go out and scout. And then they'll communicate to the sign company, we want it installed here, there,
they'll ask permission from the township or the city or grandma who owns the park.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the farm or whatever. Okay.
Exactly. And then so they come up with their list of spots. There's more or less depending on the development, depending on how big it is and so on. So in our second example, the message that you are putting on there and the tone can immediately help you stand out. And I think we can all think of certain developers we've seen in the marketplace that have a real reverence to them and they grab your attention, right? When they're speaking conversationally right to you. Now, sometimes this is appropriate for the development, sometimes it's not. You don't have to be rude, you don't have to be completely outrageous. But as you can see from signage examples around, they're all very formulaic. It's the logo, the sun, the arrow, and whatever. So to just distance yourself from that and stand out, look how easy it is. So all we've done here, we've done what is called kind of an awareness campaign, right? This is hard for a lot of marketers and, developers to do because that tendency to just fill it with all the stuff about the development. If you can find one that's got the strength to hold back and to do something like this is very effective. So we come up with some key phrases. And again, this is, talking to the client, what are key differentiators for this development? Is it price? Is it the most inexpensive place around? Does it have more storage than anybody else does? Is it near a park? Whatever the thing is, right? So again, I've just come up with some examples here.
That's great.
All that you've been looking for. kind of captures it all
like
right there,
that.
right? It's cheeky, it's in your face. The branding you recognize, it's consistent.
Yep.
So if you've seen the magazine ad, you go, oh, I know that's Park Place.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, what's, no more. Another example here, this is very specific.
Yeah.
Family-owned, family townhomes from the 300s.
It pre-qualifies the interested buyers.
Exactly, and it's got the URL on there.
That's great.
So here, there's nothing irreverent about it. There's nothing cheeky about it, except for the size of the font. It's really big. This is what you're looking for.
Yeah.
This is what we have.
That's
so
great.
how different is that from the first example, right? Same product, same voice, everything. But this stands out 1,000 miles from
Would
the
you
other
almost split up some traditional signs like you showed before and some like this?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a great question. What you can do, and what I saw that was very effective, was a series of these signs in a row. So you actually do 3 of them. So the first one grabs your attention. Am I interested in this product, first of all? My wife and I are looking for a home. We've got about this, oh wow, look, that's exactly what we're looking for. The next sign gives you some more detail. The next sign gives you some more detail. So exactly, you can take these things which are challenges and turn them into opportunities and say, okay, we want to put a ton of stuff on the sign. It's hard to read, but too much. How do we solve that? How about 3 signs in a row?
QR codes. they were nice. They attempted to be useful, but I've yet to see anyone use it for a very strategic purpose. And driving by, who's going to scan? You're driving. Your passenger's driving.
It would be a bit of a challenge. I'm not going to say no to it, but it would be a bit of a challenge.
I saw someone do a sign that said "ridiculously good-looking townhomes," and I remembered it because it's from the line from the movie. It's memorable. It was a bit cheeky, and
you remember it.
Yeah. Oh, right? I still remember it. Yeah.
So I mean, that's exactly the idea.
Yeah.
The next example is, again, just maybe I've had some developments where the location is a challenge to explain to somebody. So that's like the big key is to get there. So again, we turn it into a positive. Just do a giant sign saying we're on the corner of 125th and where. Then we've got the product and the URL. So I'm just showing this is a mix of all kinds of things. We don't have to have just the headline. We can throw in some other things. But
that's cool.
And this is the most cheeky one, right? The next one, yes, it's awesome. And we've broken the word awesome with a hyphen it, which is kind of in vogue right now. You see that a lot with some developments. It's young, it's modern, it's got a lot of energy to it, and you go, huh, that's interesting. I'd like to know more about that.
That's not going to be to market a master on the main, is it?
I'm sorry?
That's not going to market to the older demographic. It might be a younger, because you know your audience, right?
Yeah, perhaps. And that's, again, a really good question. A lot of times with these developments, we know the target demographic really super well. And there's always a little spillover into different areas. It's never 100% one demographic, but there's a large number in one. So if this was skewing to more of an older demographic, we would just put master on the main would be the big text on there rather than yes, it's awesome. And I've actually done that and it had an amazing response. So that's a very good question, exactly. And then the last one it seems really simple, but again, it's just one of these things that they make assumptions because, like I said, the 4x8s started just because it was cheaper to buy 1 sheet of plywood rather than the second you buy 2 and then have to cut it to make something, you had a lot of cost. And budgets are, have a lot of components to them. Signage is just one component. So we've just always gone with the 4x8. So what I'm saying is, well, if you were in a sea of 4x8s, how hard is it to change that up a little bit? So here we can just see a graphic of, there's a 6-foot person in relation to a 4x8 sign. Very standard. Whatever. What if you were to just change it up a little bit?
Oh, look at that. Look at that triangle one.
Around the corners, make it a triangle. So all that is for the sign maker, that's just 2 cuts on a 4x8, right? It'll add a tiny little bit of labor, but negligible. Very, very little. So that's the shape of the sign you can play with. And again, sky's the limit. You could cut a hole in it, put a hole right through it, and do something with plexiglass in the middle, maybe.
That's a cool idea.
So there's all kinds of things you can think of there. Do a round sign. I've done some that are perfectly round, right? Again, single piece of plywood. Second thing to do is applications on top of it. So we call those dimensional applications. So in the first example here, you can see we've added like almost a crown molding and a baseboard almost, kind of a faux thing. To it looks, and then the logo itself is in a round circle that's applied. So these are just elements that are like any other building material. They're just added on top of the sign. It gives it dimension, it gives it depth. During the day, it casts a little bit of a shadow. It just makes it stand out. So you pay a little for labor, a little tiny bit for materials, but it doesn't double the cost of the sign. It's an extra maybe 5 or 10%. It's really nominal. And then the second example there just shows, if you put another board on top of it or even break up the board into segments with something in between. So just when you're working on these things, there's things you can do that will cost you no extra money in terms of what information you put on the sign. Think through it a little bit more, and look at where you're placing it. If you're putting it on a corner that has a lot of these developments and they're all somewhat similar, you just take a second and say, okay, well, how can I turn this on its head and just change the messaging, size of messaging, amount of messaging, and the size of the sign.
That's really cool.
There you go.
It's been really helpful. I'm curious, and you may not have the answer, have you ever fooled around with like reflective paint or reflective stickers or lighting? Or is that against probably city bylaws and constraints there?
It's a good question. Reflective, absolutely. There's vinyls, because these are all usually clad in vinyl, right? So the sign companies have amazing products. Like, it's incredible what they can do. I've seen aluminum signs, like a 3 mil or 4 millimeter aluminum panel. It looks really slick because it's got that depth to it.
Yeah.
It adds cost.
Yeah.
And the metallic vinyls and reflective vinyls are always something we recommend because, again, the headlights catch it. Immediately makes you stand out.
Yeah.
There's an additional cost for that. So it does add up a little bit. But again, depending on your budgets and how much you want to compete, absolutely. As far as lighting it goes, that's actually been a really big challenge because these are usually put on somebody's front lawn. There's no power. Right? So we've actually been working towards a solar solution, which is actually more difficult than you might think. But yeah, there is some things in the works for that. Nobody has successfully done it on a 4x8. When you're at the site and you're doing the big site sign saying welcome here, there's usually power from the site. So you can actually light those ones, and they usually are. But these ones are tricky because they're temporary. They're only up for the life of the project, and they get damaged a lot. So, and there's never any power to them. So, but we're looking at some battery solutions for that. So you might see that out in the environment this year.
Awesome.
There you go.
Thanks, Michael.
You're welcome.
Hopefully this was helpful. This next portion of this time together, Marketing Jam, we're going to jump into how to make your registrations pop.
Awesome.
So,
and I'm going to grill you with all kinds of questions.
Grill away. That's great. So 3 ways that we're finding registrations pop, and this is just from our experience in working with different projects right over across the Lower Mainland, in Kelowna, in Alberta. And so these are 3 trends that we've seen, and this is our chance today to kind of lift the veil on some of those trends and share some of the knowledge and some of the ideas that we've been learning. So first thing that I want to jump to is Facebook lead gen ads. That's the one thing I want to talk about. Second thing is advertorial, and the third thing being video.
Right.
All right. So Facebook lead gen ads. So as you probably know, Facebook is Facebook. You go there to look at fun photos, post memes, do whatever else you do on Facebook, update your relationship status or whatever you do there. But again, it's turned into this incredible business for the Zuckerberg crew and company. And so one of the announcements, again, just happened recently. They're now saying you have to pay to have any of your posts seen as a Facebook page. And so because of that, so many people now who have a Facebook page have to pay to play. And right now, there's probably about 20 different types of Facebook ads that you can run. But what we found for the development sector was Facebook lead gen ads are the #1 way to get leads in. And because of that, it's a concentrated way to get leads, because when people register for Facebook, they give their email address already. They give their first name, they give their second name, they give their city, and sometimes they even give their phone number. So when you fill out a Facebook lead gen ad, they're just able to hit one button and give that information to the development. Whereas a lot of ads would often say, click this link, go to this website, then give us your information. Or a lot of ads that were famous on Facebook were, like our page ad. And then all you do is you have a page that has a lot of likes. That doesn't actually generate
How can you
sales.
convert that?
Yeah. So Facebook lead gen ads has been the #1 thing that we've seen work. It outshines all the other ad platforms. Besides, there's Google Search, there's Bing, which we know about, and there's all sorts of other types of ad platforms. And we've seen, again, even a massive trend even in the last year from Google Search, which actually was getting us some lead generation, to putting more and more of our energy and more of our focus on Facebook lead gen ads because it just works. The cost per lead is quite low, and the quality of the lead is also quite good. So again, visuals on that are also very important because Facebook, on those lead gen ads, it allows you to put visuals. So if it has a beautiful kitchen, put the kitchen on there. If it has a beautiful front yard, if it has a beautiful neighborhood, Facebook, because you are scrolling through typically with your mobile device, our big thing is how do you make thumb-stopping content? So as you're scrolling through, as the person who does the design and the marketing for that group, the branding and the gorgeous imagery, it's how do you make something that will, A, cause you to stop your thumb, and B, cause you to actually want to give your information to get more information about that development. Another thing that Facebook has done recently is they have a thing called lookalike audiences. So as you begin to generate leads and they begin to put like a buyer persona together for you, Facebook then finds you other people who are like that buyer. So Facebook naturally, whether you call it artificial intelligence or just really good programming and a really good ad system, finds you other potential buyers, and those have also been great for getting us Facebook leads.
Now, are you talking, when you say visuals, are you talking about strictly 100% pure visuals, or are you talking about visuals with text?
Well, that's a great question. So Facebook actually has a law or a rule that limits the amount of text you can put in the ad.
Yeah, I've come across that.
Yeah, so the main thing we need is we need really good photography and a really catchy verbiage. And just like you were talking about, I think everything that you shared in this first half applies to Facebook ads as well. So what do you want them to know about? What do you want to do to cause their thumb to stop? Next one I want to talk about, before I jump in actually, 56% is the average amount of monthly registrations that come from Facebook lead gen ads compared to any other way. So the way we got that data was we looked at a thing called Google Analytics, and we set up a thing called goals, and we monitor and measure where do all the registrations come from. And Facebook lead ads are are generating 56% of our leads.
That's
which
massive.
Has been amazing.
Yeah.
Next one is Advertorial. Right. Second thing to make things pop. Advertorial, just for understanding what it is. So there was advertising in newspapers and in magazines and all that world, and there was editorial. So editorial and advertising got together, had a baby, and we call it Advertorial. And so this world of Advertorial has become this ever-growing important piece to be aware of, to manage, to monitor, because there's such a lack of reporters these days, and because there's such, sometimes you can't always get that earned media, which we, again, historically would always find opportunities to get earned media. Sometimes it looks like, okay, we need registrations quick and fast, and we have a project run of, say, 6 months. Sometimes it looks like, okay, how do we build in an advertorial strategy for that? And then it's finding the right advertorial pathways. So for example, whether it's a Vancouver Sun because you want a certain type of demographic, or this is Populous for another type of demographic, again, we've been able to measure and monitor and see that there's some incredible advertorials out there, and in a sense, media partnerships, or sometimes they call it sponsored content. There's all sorts of names people call it these days, but that has continued to get us quality leads. And the quality is so great because the person's typically read that publication, they trust that publication, and they've actually been pre-qualified because like, hey, that actually is a good fit. And before they give their information to go over to the website, they've actually read a bit about the project, they catch the vibe of the project, they understand kind of the price point of the project, and then they come over and give their information.
Well, and I think that the nature of social media over the last few years has really changed the perception of advertorials. They've really come out of the shadows. You know what I mean? Like they're actually seen now as a real resource, because normally when you see them, it's an expert in the field. Someone giving you insight or giving you information that you actually want. It's useful content. So it's really kind of reached a bit of a heyday, and I agree with you completely. Whenever I see it, or when one of my clients partakes in that, it's usually really valuable, and it's actually something worth reading. You know?
And the strategic parts in that are, again, making sure that it's the right fit for your project.
Absolutely.
Second thing is really good written copy. So whether they write it or you write it, again, it's figuring out, okay, who's the best fit for it. Ideally, they write it and write it from a perspective that's very natural. And then thirdly, because they have outlets like Facebook, and they have their own Twitter channel, and they have their own YouTube channel, how do you leverage that? And whether it's running a contest, running a giveaway, partnering with the local business improvement association or tourism group to promote that area, whatever it looks like, you can actually then measure and monitor and run a really cool social media contest
idea.
with the advertorial partner.
Yeah, that's a fantastic way to maximize them.
Yeah. So again, just a quote that goes with it: what others say about you is more important than what you say about yourself. So again, if you can fan into flame what others are saying about you and saying positive things about your project, especially even for Google, the ever important Google search, when someone saw Park Place as they were driving, and maybe they didn't remember the URL, but they Google search Park Place, and the editorial pops up like a Vancouver Sun article or a piece in the Daily Hive, they're going to be like, oh wow, this project's really great, or wow, it's famous because it's been written about in in a news publication.
Well, it legitimizes it, right?
Yeah,
it absolutely does. Yeah.
Next thing we're talking about is video. So again, Facebook being what it is, again going back to that, video on Facebook is incredible. So again, it's one of the best thumb-stopping pieces you could ever do. So again, the more video you can add to your marketing kind of strategy, the better it is. So again, using drone footage, point of view style, 3D walk tours, all that is very affordable these days. Drones are affordable, 3D cameras are affordable, and it allows you the chance to actually bring the potential buyer into your world from the safety and comfort of their living room. And allows them to actually see the project firsthand and in a sense be toured there into that world.
Now I know exactly the first thing that a developer watching this is going to ask you. How much is too much information? Because they're always trying to withhold just a little bit to cause that action of visiting the site, right? So I'm sure that's a delicate balance.
Yeah, and I think on video, for example, the great thing about it is like, a picture says 1,000 words, a video says 1,000,000 words, So as you show this video, you get more of an emotional experience and an emotional reaction from someone who's then willing to give their information over to you to go on a tour, to go on a sales walkthrough. And because they've seen it, heard it, been inspired by this video, they may not ever go to the website, they may not do all the research, but they're like, wow, I've always wanted to live in Lower Lonsdale. You just show me the beauty and awesomeness of Lower Lonsdale. I'm giving you my information. I one day want to live there. And then hopefully then you have a really good nurture process where the email then is followed up with.
Right.
Someone follows up with a phone call.
That would be the key to it,
Yeah, but the video is such a great enticement tool because then you can show so much. And one of the cool ways, just to tie it up with Advertorial, there's some folks who will do you an Advertorial which includes a video. So for example, it might be partnering with a local blogger who then goes on a date in that local area and tours you around by showing off the neighborhood. And then their video is actually coming from them and being like, hey, you know what, I'm from this area or I love this area. Here's 7 things you can do today. And then even allow them to maybe give away that as a prize. Like, hey, you can win, that date I just did today, you could win that. And hey, if you want to live here, don't forget to register at www.
That's a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to use that on my next project. That's awesome.
So I hope that was helpful.
Fantastic. Yeah, a lot of things to think about for sure. The thing I like about you guys specifically is that you tie it all together. That's the big thing that really excites me about working with Jelly and working with you is, I do the design, I do the branding, I do all that stuff, but I operate a little bit of a bubble. So to take those elements and you take it and say, okay, how can we take this to the next level? Like your idea of having someone actually go into the town and experience it from a date point of view and then report back on it. I mean, that's fantastic. That brings in everything together as one project,
Yeah, and now more than ever, again, to get people's attention, whether it's on the street with signs, it's like Facebook with ads, the visuals and the copy is more important than ever to catch people's attention so they'll give you their information.
And that's the thing, that's the key, is to think of it in terms of a project, in terms of the whole. These are all little elements, but to step back and look at how do we communicate this entire thing together.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I hope this was helpful for everyone that joined us today on the Marketing Jam show. This was Michael, Red 5 Design, myself, Darian from Jelly. We will be back at you again with our next show. But in the meantime, check out more information on the websites. Links are in the notes, and we'll talk to you later.